Happy Friday, everyone. Today we're going to be moving on to the long jump event in track and field. What we're going to be talking about today are the 4 phases of the long jump, and then we're going to end our day learning how to measure a long jump distance as well. Today we're going to just go step by step through each phase. We're going to start off with the approach. Learn how we're going to count our steps on the runway. Then we're going to talk about our takeoff, get into the flight, and then how do we land inside of the pit. Here we go. Long jump. If we break the long jump down into 4 different phases, we're going to be talking about our first phase, which is the approach. So how do we get started into our long jump? How do we know the right amount of steps to get our approach into a good jump? So we're going to talk about those things. Okay. So if we look on the whiteboard, we mark our steps down the runway, and we mark our steps from the toe board right here. So this is the toe board, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. You want to start from the toe board, and we're going to count 11 to 15 steps down the runway. All right, depending on our age, our speed, when we can hit our top speed, that's how many steps we can get into. And then when we get to our final spot over at the end of the runway, we're going to be talking a little bit more about our sprint. So counting out our steps to get into our approach, remember it's 11 to 15, depending on your age, depending on your speed as well. We're going to start right here, which is called the toe board. This is the closest line to the sand pit. We're going to put our back towards the sand pit and face the opposite way down the runway. Okay, then you're going to count out 11 to 15 steps, and you want to do this just like you would to sprint down the runway to get into your long jump. Now that we got our steps, it's good to carry something with you while you do your sprint so you can mark it on the runway. So here's where my spot is. And then we're gonna get into our approach to our jump now. So when we're talking about our sprint, we wanna start off in a sprinter's position. Okay, so we're gonna start off kind of facing the ground, nice and low to the ground. All right, really pumping those arms as we go to get our top speed. And then as I reach the toe board, I wanna be at a tall position with my body. All right, so I can jump from a tall position and use my body to go into the sand pit. So phase 2 and 3. Phase 2, the takeoff, 3, the flight. So within the takeoff, we want to keep our body tall with our head up. And we want our last stride to be a shorter stride. We want to plant the takeoff foot flat on the ground. And then we're gonna swing our lead knee and opposite arm forward as we get into our jump, okay? And then when we're on the flight, there are 3 different techniques of the flight. There is the stride technique, the hang technique, and the hitch technique. And the main thing with the flight when you're in the air is you wanna try to keep your upper body back and not having it go forward to bring you down to the ground, so you can stay up in there as long as you can before you hit the sand pit. So we're gonna walk over here. And right here where Bum Bum's at is the toe board. So this is the toe board, so this is where the takeoff would happen. We would try to land on top of the toe board to get our jump in as we go through, okay? If we step over the toe board, that is a scratch. So our toe cannot go past the toe board, all right? If we step behind the toe board, that's completely okay, all right? But our goal is to get as close to that edge as we can, all right, so we can get a good distance on our jump. Because when we talk about measurements, they're gonna be measuring from the very edge line of that toe board.
That last take was even better than the first.
So the 4th phase of the long jump is the landing. So we land with our feet first, with our feet stretched out in front of our body. So if you watch some of those YouTube videos that we posted on the slides, you'll see that all the jumpers land with their feet out in front of them, and they usually land with their butt in the sand, or they try to land to the side, because when we get into measurements, you're gonna see that they are measuring from the closest to the toe board. So if I put my hand back behind me and that marks in the sand, they'll measure from there. Or if I landed 1 foot behind my other foot, they'll measure from the closest foot to the toe board. Last thing we're going to talk about in the long jump is how to measure our distance. So they'll have measuring tape at the event. They'll use the measuring tape to mark from the very edge of the white line or the toe board, and they'll straighten the measuring tape out to where you put a mark inside the sand. And remember, it's the closest thing in the sand to the edge of this toe board. Let's see how far I can jump. So after your jump, they'll look at the marking inside the sand, they'll pull the measuring tape out, and they'll see how far you jumped. So for my jump, I got 15 feet and about 5 inches. Thanks for being here today, talking about the long jump. We talked about 4 phases of the long jump: the approach, takeoff, flight, and landing. And then we also mentioned how to measure our distance when we do the long jump. So if you have any questions, remember to email me. I have office hours from 11 to 1, and I'll see you next time.